everybody, this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I'm going to teach you how to create this ring around your horizon design. So let's go ahead and get started. So I went ahead and cut out all of my pieces. So what you're going to need to do is first cut with the basic dies, the same size as the horizon dies you're using. So I used the 3x5 die from set B, and I used the 3x5 horizon dies to cut out my horizon shapes for the top and bottom. And so these are the two 3x5 horizon dies here, and that is what I used for part of my layout. I also have 3x4 size shapes, so I used the 3x4 die from set C to cut the background for these sections, and the background is going to be the ring that's going to show. And for these photos I also used the 3x4 horizon die. So keep that in mind, you want to use a background piece with the basic dies that's going to be the color that's going to show as your ring. Alright, so the first step is to glue down your background pieces for the horizon dies, which I'm doing here. These are, again, from the basic die bundle, and your horizon die outline, which I cut with pattern paper. If you are not familiar with the horizon dies, you've never heard of them, never used them, please go check out the tutorial. There's a link for it in the top right corner here. Please go check it out, and you want to use the horizon dies and get familiar with them and get comfortable with them before doing this kind of technique. This is sort of an intermediate technique for the horizon dies. So go check out that tutorial if you are not familiar with the horizon dies. So I'm making this video assuming all of you know how to use these particular dies. So right now I finished gluing down those background pieces, and now I'm adding in the outline of the horizon die with this pattern paper, which is from Echo Park, by the way. It's really pretty winter paper. I just love winter paper. Anyway, so I have all those pieces glued down, and next you're gonna have to change your photos. So I'm gonna grab my cutting mat here, and I'm using the Mosaic Moments cutting mat. If you don't have that one, that's fine. Just make sure your cutting mat has 1/8 inch lines. So to do this outline technique, you will need a cutting mat. As I've already shown, you'll need a ruler. We use a metal ruler with a cork back and an X-Acto knife or another tool to cut. And you will also need repositionable glue. All right, so I'm going to use this one piece, and I'm going to glue it down. Make sure you get the corners pretty well. And I'm also going to put it in the middle just like you normally would glue it for a layout. And first you're going to line up the straight edge of the horizon die on just one of the lines. And you want to make sure the bottom here is also lined up on the line as well. And you're going to line up your ruler on the 1/8 inch line. So you only need to take off 1/8 of an inch. And then you're going to use your knife and cut that little piece off. Alrighty. And then I'm going to just turn the mat. Your photo's already stuck to it, so you just need to turn the mat and then get that other section where the other straight line is and cut that off as well. Alright, so super easy. So if you're not someone who's comfortable with an X-Acto knife, you may want to practice beforehand, but this does require an X-Acto knife to do this technique. And then you're going to stick it right in the corner, so you're not going to put it right next to the pattern paper piece like you normally would. You want to make sure it's on the opposite corner, so that way you have that ring going around, or really the ring between your photo and the pattern paper. All right, for this piece, you're not going to cut the bottom or top because then it won't fit the height of that paper correctly. So you just need to take off the one edge here. Alrighty, so we're going to do the same thing as before where we glue it down. I'm using my repositionable glue, which is really handy. And after you glue it down and cut it, you already have the glue on there, so after you take it off the mat, you can apply it right onto the layout, which is what makes repositionable glue very handy. So you're going to line up the longest straight edge, in this case, of the horizon die on your mat. And you want to make sure the bottoms line up as well to make sure your photo is not crooked. And again, you're going to just cut a tiny strip off on the 1/8 inch line. So on all sizes, remember, you only need to cut off 1/8 of an inch. And in this case, again, you only need to cut off the one edge on this particular size, because you need to make sure it's gonna cover the rest of that section vertically. All right, so pretty easy. It's not very hard to do this technique, and that's what's nice about it, is it's just a quick cut and you are done. All right, but I'm going to keep showing how I do the rest of the layout. It's the same instructions, really. So again, I'm using my repositionable glue to glue down the corners and put some in the center. So now I'm going to put it back on my cutting mat, and again, just getting the straight edges. So don't try to cut the curve edge because it may not work out very well. Just cut off the straight edges. All right, I'm going to take my ruler here, and I just want to show you real quick how to hold a knife. You kind of want to hold it like you would a pencil. Your index finger is right on the top here, and when you look at the blade, you shouldn't really be able to see it. And your finger should hold down on the ruler over the top and bottom of your photo. And of course, make sure your arm is going straight back when you're cut. So make sure there's room for your arm to go back as you're cutting with the X-Acto knife. And again, the blade, you shouldn't really be able to see it. If you can see the blade when you're cutting, it might mean it's going to come out a little bit crooked. Anyway, I'm going to do the same thing on this edge here where I just cut it off. And it's done. And since I have glue already on the back, I can just stick it down on the 3x5 horizon piece there in the corner. Again, you shouldn't squish it up next to the pattern paper portion, because otherwise the ring wouldn't be in the right place. All right, I'm just going to keep going, and you can watch as I go along here. And I really like how it looks so far. You can see I have half the ring done here. Alrighty, so I'm going to do the next piece now. When you do this project, you only want to cut the inner part of the horizon dies shorter. If you try to cut down the outer edge, so the pattern paper portion of the horizon dies, what will happen is that portion will be cut too short and it won't cover your 3x5 or 3x4 block in this case. So it'll end up being too short on one side or the other. So don't try to trim down the outer edges because it won't measure up properly over the background pieces. You only want to cut the inner shape, the inner horizon shape, to create that ring. So right here, just real quick, I did get a little bit of glue on the photo, so I'm using this tool here to get that off. It might leave a little bit of a smudge, but at least the glue for the most part is gone, and no one else will probably really notice that you had any glue there. So I forgot the name of that tool, but I'll definitely put it in the description below, so go check that out. I know they sell it on Amazon.com. All right, I'm doing my last piece here, and since you are going to trim down probably the part where you have your photographs, keep that in mind that you don't want your subject to be on the part you're going to trim off. So be careful with that, and remember, it's not going to stay the full original horizon die size. It is going to be trimmed down. So that's some extra things to keep in mind. I have photos where my dog's farther away, and so it worked out really well for me to trim her photos very easily for this layout. All right, so for the center, I cut out a 4x4 square shape from the basic die bundle from set A, and I also hand cut the middle portion here of my dog. It's 4x4 inch photograph. So I want to show you some fun tips and tricks. So I wanted to make a border behind my photograph, and if you don't want to use up a lot of pattern paper, a sneaky thing you can do is just you cut 1x1 inch squares of that pattern paper and then stick it behind your photograph and no one will know. So it looks like there's a strip, but it's not a whole strip. It's just two little squares. And of course you want to make sure they're lined up to appear as if it's one straight line, which I need to fix my square. It wasn't lined up. So make sure it's lined up. You can use the mat and ruler if you want to make sure it's lined up properly. So that is a fun and easy way to create a faux strip behind your photograph so you don't have to use as much pattern paper. So I could leave my little outline the way it is. Another fun idea, if you're comfortable doing this, is using stickles, which I love. This is kind of my new fun idea I've been enjoying lately. So you want to really take your time and glue down carefully. And it may seem like a lot originally, but it actually really only took me a few minutes to put the stickles on here. I'm not trying to get it perfect, just trying to eyeball how to space it out really, but it's really fun and it makes it glittery. All right, now that I've finished this one portion, I'll just quickly show you how it looks. And doesn't that look really pretty and glittery? It's so nice. It's a fun way to embellish your layout. So I'm going to go ahead and put the stickles around the whole circle. All right, so the whole thing is completed. I'll show you a close-up real quick. I even put some stickles in the center and all four corners. The stickle I use is sort of a clear color one, and so it kind of looks like ice around the layout. So again, what you do is take your time. You may want to practice it a little bit before you actually use it on your horizon layout. But I think it looks really pretty and it adds some interest. So you can leave the ring the way it is and just show the paper, and that's great, but the stickles kind of adds a nice touch as well. Really quick, I wanted to add a little bit of journaling to the layout, and a fun thing you can do is write your journaling on little pieces of paper. These are 1/4 of an inch thick, so really tiny handwriting, but I basically cut out these little strips and added glue to the back, and they fit right on the outline part of the horizon dies. So this is just a fun little thing. I've noticed this is kind of a trendy thing in scrapbooking, is to make these fun little strips for your journaling, and I enjoy adding them onto the horizon design. So super easy. Just usually I just take a pencil and write what I want, and then you can obviously erase it if you need to. And then once you finalize it, you can take a nice pen and write it on top. And I just cut these with an X-Acto knife. You can also just use a pair of scissors. So super easy way to add journaling, and it's a fun way to show your handwriting as well. All right. This is my completed layout. I love how it looks. I really love having this ring around the horizon dies. It's super easy if you want to take the time to just cut off the edges, and I think it looks really pretty, and it kind of helps the circle stand out a lot more. That's what I like about it, is it gives that circle a more definite shape. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already so you can see future demos like this one. All right, I hope you guys have fun scrapbooking at home and enjoy playing around with your horizon dies. I'll see you next time.